As we get closer to the NFL draft for 2025, it's time to take a look at some of the draft sleepers. The Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl have wrapped up, and we've seen some guys emerge, take steps forward, and some guys are still flying under the radar. We're going to take a look at each position for the NFL draft and take a look at some of my favorite sleepers for this upcoming draft. We'll start with the quarterback position. Max Brosmer had a really good performance, and I think that he is someone who will continue to fly under the radar. Doesn't have the prototypical arm strength that maybe you want in a quarterback, but he's a smart player who makes quick decisions. He can get the ball out really fast, and sometimes that's what you need. You don't necessarily need a guy with an elite arm, but you need someone who's going to make smart decisions. Now, he is not going to be a first round pick by any means. He's probably not going to be a day 2 pick either. He will probably be in that day 3, but there are a lot of scouts and analysts that are high on him. They're excited to see what he can do. 6'2", 225 pounds, a guy who has a good frame for a quarterback and a very underrated arm. And I think that he'll fit well in certain teams. And I think that a team that is looking for a quarterback that can compete and is going to have a chip on their shoulder, which Max Brosmer fits that description, is going to like what they get in him. Again, he did really well with Minnesota coming from New Hampshire, and I think that he'll do really well at the next level too. He'll be a good backup. I don't necessarily know if he'll be a starter by any means, but I know that people are starting to like his game a little bit more. Cam Miller is the other one that I'll mention for NDSU, a guy who gives you not only the ability to throw, but he is a very mobile quarterback. And this year, I think we saw him take off as a passer, had career highs in passing yards and touchdowns, and only threw 4 interceptions. He also ran for 631 yards and 12 touchdowns, has the mobility to compete at the NFL level. Question is going to be with the arm talent. We saw 1 year of pretty good play from him as a quarterback, as a passer, and it'll be interesting to see if he can continue that at the next level. Again, another guy that's probably going to be a day 3 guy, but I'm very interested in this day and age with so many brilliant offensive minds running certain offenses. I'm excited to see what kind of formations, what kind of packages someone can come up with for him and what they can do to get him and get Cam Miller involved, get him into open space, and how they can confuse defenses with him being on the field. The running back position is deep. I think that's the one thing that we've had a consensus on, is that this is a really good group, but there are still some sleepers that are flying under the radar. RJ Harvey is less of a sleeper after the Senior Bowl, just because of, kind of similar to some of the other quarterbacks, you have a versatile player that can be utilized in a lot of different formations. He also showed that he still is very much capable of throwing the football. We saw 2 running back passes for touchdowns in the Senior Bowl, and RJ Harvey is someone who is really good in terms of the sleeper ability to throw the football, but also he's very good running it. It's 5'9", 208 pounds, someone who's maybe, I think that he's going to bulk up a little bit. It'll be really interesting to see what he can do as a running back, because he is someone who is very good for UCF, has the ability to find openings, has the patience, definitely has the burst to hit those holes when they present themselves, and he is able to get to that second level. He doesn't necessarily have the long speed, or maybe not the pass pro that you would want, but he's definitely an intriguing player and someone that you can use as another versatile weapon for your offense. Brashard Smith is another interesting one. The former wide receiver turned running back showed that he's very adaptable, another versatile weapon, and part of being a sleeper is that you can bring something new to the table. Brashard Smith and RJ Harvey bring that. 5'10", 196 pounds. He's not necessarily the biggest running back, so his size is maybe not necessarily the best thing. Durability could be a question as well, but his quickness, pass catching, the ability to make plays is really where he stands out. He's very good once he has the football in his hands, and SMU found multiple ways to get him the football in open space. If an NFL team can do that, they're going to have a really fun player to watch. Wide receiver position was honestly pretty easy to pick. There are a lot of options. I think that you put Savion Williams in there. I don't hear his name talked about a lot, but some of these guys were getting too high in the consensus rankings. So Nick Nash and Jalen Noel are the 2 guys we'll talk about. Nick Nash did a lot of good things at San Jose State, and most people that cover college football did not talk about him. What you saw from him this year was truly incredible. He had a big year in 2023, and he replicated that success in 2024. 104 catches, 1,382 yards. Teams knew that San Jose State was going to throw him the football. Didn't matter. He is a big-time producer, good hands, very good deep downfield, someone who maybe doesn't get separation, but someone who can stretch the defense vertically. That's something that you could really look for in terms of a value pick. Could be a day two guy. He's probably not going to be a day one guy, and honestly, he wouldn't be on this list if he's a potential day one. But he is someone who I think is still being slept on, someone who has a ton of ability. We'll see what he can do, but he is someone to keep an eye on for sure. Jalen Noel is the other one. Had a big week this week, and he is someone who helped his draft stock a ton. Coming out of Idaho State, 5'11", 200 pounds. He's quick. He runs very good routes. Maybe doesn't have the long speed, sometimes has some drop issues, but I think that he did a lot for himself, and he is someone that is going to fly under the radar. Both Iowa State wide receivers this week played really well, and I think it did a lot for their draft stock. Tight ends were interesting because there's a lot of guys that you're going to pay attention to. I think everyone looks at Tyler Warren as the top guy, but there's a lot of underrated options. Jalen Conyers is a guy who is a versatile weapon. We saw what he could do at Arizona State and Texas Tech. His production maybe isn't what you want, but this is someone who has the ability to make plays. The athleticism is there. The ability to create yards after catch is there. The deep speed, maybe not the best. The routes, maybe not, but he is someone, if you get the ball in his hands, he knows exactly what to do with it. Gavin Bartholomew, kind of the same thing. Maybe not as good after the catch, but he is extremely athletic, has a good burst, good hands, someone who Pitt didn't utilize a ton, which is surprising this year, but I think that he has the ability to be a really exciting player. Right now, very slept on because most people are paying attention to those top guys. But 6'5", 250 pounds, has the speed, like I said, has the athleticism. Very underrated player and someone who could be a potential steal in this draft. Offensive line is an interesting group. There's plenty of sleepers, and we went some deep sleepers here. Tyler Cooper is definitely one who's not going to be on a ton of people's radars, and definitely someone who could surprise a ton of people. He is a good player with a good base, has good strength overall, but maybe you have some concerns about his reach. Hand usage might be a little bit inconsistent. J.C. Davis, kind of a similar thing where I'm kind of surprised he's this low in the consensus. 6'5", 320 pounds, an aggressive player who has good hands, showed some of that at Illinois. You have some concerns maybe about his compact frame. Does he have the explosiveness? He has the nasty streak to him, so there's definitely some explosiveness, but can that be consistent? Offensive line is such an important position, and a lot of times you can find good value in day three, and that's where Cooper and Davis will end up. Defensive end is interesting because there's two guys here we'll talk about that are very different. Ahmad Hassanein is more of that effort player. Doesn't necessarily have the length or the size, the frame that you're looking for, but he is a producer. He is a competitive player, someone who is not going to quit, and he is going to be very fun to watch at the next level. Has a tenacious attitude. He will not give up on a play, has a good burst, but again, maybe has that compact frame. Does he have the athleticism to drop back in coverage? Double teams kind of give him a little bit of trouble at times, so something to keep an eye on, but definitely a player to watch for sure. Tyler Barron's on the opposite side. Has that natural ability, has good size, 6'5", 260 pounds, good length. He's a productive player at every school that he's been at, good burst, but maybe doesn't have the versatility in a scheme. The bend around the edge sometimes is a concern, but this is a guy who is definitely going to be productive. I'm excited to see what he does at the next level, and somebody's going to be lucky to get him. Defensive tackle is perfect, and another example of two guys that are very different. CJ West has that more compact frame, kind of like Ahmad Hassanein, but a guy who is very powerful in that frame. So you don't necessarily have too many concerns. He's not small by any means, but he's 6'2", 317 pounds. The length is just really going to have to do with, can you get hands on a guy, or are you explosive enough to get in his frame before he gets to you? Those are going to be the biggest questions. He has the burst, he has the power, and a guy who's still going to fly under the radar. Darius Alexander did a lot for himself this week, and he is someone who's going to get a lot of love now, but he's still going to be a sleeper. 6'4", 310 pounds. His former teammate, I should say, Quinyon Mitchell, is going to prove why you don't really question the level of competition as much. There's probably still concerns with that, but he is someone who has the athleticism, has the ability to make plays at the next level, and he showed that against any competition that he can dominate. Linebacker, again, kind of a theme here for the defense, is there's two different guys here. Deshaun Pace is a versatile weapon. He's played defensive back and linebacker. I don't know which one he's going to be. He's going to have to bulk up. If he plays linebacker, he might have to slim down if he plays defensive back, or maybe they just throw him kind of near that line of scrimmage in like a nickel role or something like that. Definitely an outside more linebacker. He will not play inside, but he is someone who is fun to watch. Very productive player at both UCF and Cincinnati. A guy who is definitely athletic enough to handle life in the NFL, but we'll see what he gets asked to do by whatever team drafts him. Chandler Martin is a little bit different. A heat-seeking missile for Memphis, very productive, the heart and soul of that defense. The Tigers were a very underachieving defense at times, but Chandler Martin was with a consistent player that made plays for them. He is someone who can be living in the backfield. He can mop up things when the guys in front of him aren't making their plays, they're doing their jobs right. He is someone who can step up in a big way. He's definitely going to be a special teams guy for sure. Same with Deshaun Pace, has the ability to step into a roster spot right away. And these are two guys to definitely keep an eye on in the NFL draft. And finally, we get to the defensive backs. Kobe Bryant is the first one. Not only does he have a great name, but he has the ability to get the ball back to his offense. He did that for Kansas year in and year out. A very productive player who had 4 interceptions last year. Maybe the size is a concern at 6 feet, 175 pounds. You'd like to see him maybe bulk up a little bit, but I think that he'll be able to continue to make plays. He understands what to do when the ball is in the air, but again, that size could be maybe a concern that pushes him further back in the draft, but still a player that's going to be competing for a spot on the roster. Tommy Hill's another one, but for a different reason. Injury kind of held him out, maybe hurt his draft stock more than he anticipated. Good instincts and athleticism. When he is healthy, he's one of the better cornerbacks in college football. Very underrated within college football circles as well. I think that his ability to get healthy is going to be the best thing for him. What he does in his testing, throwing his numbers will be a big key for him, but someone who is definitely able to compete at the next level. There's a lot of sleepers at every single position. Again, just because I didn't talk about the guys, there's a lot of sleepers you could talk about. Pretty much every day, 3 guy could be a sleeper, but these are the guys that I just really like, and these are guys that could be some of the biggest impact players, in my opinion, at the next level.